Welcome to episode number 214 of the Beyond Social Media Show, the podcast for you marketing, advertising, public relations, and communications professionals. We are recording live on YouTube on January 7, 2018. Happy New Year. I hope 2018 is much better for you and more prosperous for you than 2017 was, and less stress-filled. We have plenty of things to talk about this week. BL is on the mend again this week. We anticipate her coming back soon by the end of January at the very least, so we'll look forward to that. But in the meantime, you've got me solo. The topics this week include Sarah Silverman turns a troll, Lifetime Fitness bans cable news, wellness VR, Google's audio realistic text-to-speech AI, Firefox to shame Insecurity, Cadbury pulls a full Willy Wonka, Apple's podcast analytics, Twitter's video views, Facebook's ad rules, massive hardware flaw, and swatting, and Ajit Pai No-Shows CES. So we'll start it off with the best stories of the week, and the best is by far a nice, inspiring story involving Sarah Silverman. A lot of people reported on this. This is from a CBC article by Jennifer Van Evra. So comedian Sarah Silverman recently had an exchange with a Twitter troll. And it is the very definition of compassion. A total stranger randomly replied to one of her tweets that was exploring her attempts to understand Trump supporters. And this troll responded with nothing but the C word. So rather than lashing back or blocking the troll, Silverman countered with compassion. She tweeted, "I believe in you. I read your timeline and I see what you're doing, and your rage is thinly veiled pain. But you know that. I know this feeling. P.S. My back effing sucks too," she added. And that was referring to back troubles that the user had mentioned in his Twitter feed. And then she continues, "See what happens when you choose love. I see it in you." In response, the troll opened up. He said, "I can't choose love. A man that resembles Kevin Spacey took that away when I was 8. I can't find peace. If I could find the guy who ripped my body, who stripped my innocence, I'd kill him. He effed me up. And I'm poor, so it's hard to get help." Silverman asked the guy if he uses heroin and if he wants to get clean. The guy replied that he smokes pot and he takes prescription meds. Then Silverman talked about the pitfalls of self-punishment and suggested he join a support group. She tweeted, "I want to kill him too, so I can imagine your rage. All I know is this rage, even if you could kill him, it's punishing yourself. You don't deserve punishment. You deserve support. Go to one of these support groups. You might meet your best bros there." Then Silverman called on her 12.4 million Twitter followers for help. She said, "Yo, San Antonio," which is where the guy lived, any kick-ass back neck care specialist willing to help my friend Jeremy Jamrazi. He has several slipped discs, no insurance, and can't work because of severe pain. Let's get him back on his feet. Who's in?" So the response was swift. A spinal clinic in San Antonio reached out to this user to offer help. And 1 week later, Jamrazi was able to get an MRI, which showed he had 5 herniated discs, according to My San Antonio. Silverman offered to pay for his back treatments in full, and that motivated this guy to donate the money he'd already raised through a GoFundMe account to help other San Antonians in need. Silverman's response, this is in keeping with her latest mission to find common ground in our currently polarized political environment. She has a Hulu show called I Love You America that is drawing praise for doing just that. The show's description on the Hulu page says, with I Love You America, she's looking to connect with people who may not agree with her personal opinions through honesty, humor, genuine interest in others, and not taking herself too seriously. While it's great to connect with like-minded people, Silverman feels it's crucial now more than ever to connect with unlike-minded people. And yeah, that's true. I mean, now more than ever as a nation, What we need is more compassion, more empathy, more kindness towards one another. And some way of doing it might be to not spend so much time watching the news. I generally don't advocate for that, but there's an interesting story here. In certain situations, it might be appropriate. There's an interesting story on a company called Lifetime Fitness, which is a fitness organization here in Minnesota. This is based on a Pioneer Press article by Molly Guthrie. So Chanhassen, Minnesota based, which is a city next to mine here in Minnesota, Lifetime Fitness confirmed they had a change in policy that might bum out news junkies. Natalie Bushaw, who is the Senior Director of Public Relations and Internal Communications, confirmed that they are no longer going to show cable news on the large screen TVs in Lifetime Fitness gyms. In fact, she is quoted as saying, "In fact, we did make the decision to remove cable news channels from our Lifetime screens. Why? A couple of reasons. Both the many member requests received over time across the country," so this is a national outfit, "and in keeping with our overall healthy way of life philosophy and commitment to provide family-oriented environments free of consistently negative or politically charged content." She goes on being quoted, "Ultimately, it is always our goal to meet the vast majority of our members' expressed requests, and we believe this change is consistent with the desires of the overall membership, as well as our desire to uphold a positive, family-oriented, healthy way of life environment." The decision was made after, apparently after ongoing discussion for some time, and it was kicked into at the start of 2018. The banned channels are CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, and CNBC. The big screen TVs now will air USA Network, A&E, Discovery, HGTV, as well as local stations, and ESPN. Customers can still watch on individual nowhere bikes that have their screens installed on them, or on their phones and tablets that they bring with them. But considering how worked up people get over the news these days, that's probably a very, very smart move by Lifetime Fitness's to just remove that dynamic and that stress from their premises. So good for them. This is another local story, and it's a great story about virtual reality. It's from a Star Tribune article by Joe Carlson. About Minneapolis-based virtual reality development firm Visual Inc., which is run by a guy named Chuck Olson, that is piloting its wellness VR platform. They're piloting it at Ebenezer Care Center, which is a senior living facility in Minneapolis. The residents of the complex are treated to virtual reality experiences that took them to places from Stonehenge to locally Minnehaha Falls. There were 25 participants that used the system for sessions of 7 to 11 minutes twice a week for a month. The pilot documented what appeared to be clear trends, with at least 97% of the users reporting feeling at least somewhat or more relaxed and more positive after using the VR. The patients reported a sense of contentment that lingered beyond when the session ended. There's a quote from a resident that says, "We used to do a lot of traveling when I was a child, and thankfully I was married twice, and both husbands love to travel. So this is wonderful. It's a good chance not only see other places, but just it makes you feel good." The pilot, they were surprised to find positive feelings from using the VR seem to spill over into other interactions. Nearly 95% of the participants reported that after using the VR, they felt better while spending time with family and friends, versus 65% who reported the same effect without VR exposure. And VR users also gathered around the use of the system like members of a book club. There's a quote from Chuck Olson, the CEO of Visual Inc. It says, socializing increased. They reported being less depressed as well. You can't really draw much from that, but we know that participants are excited about it. So it is not a scientifically controlled experiment, but a pilot nonetheless, and looks promising. Though all the VR programs so far are real scenes with photographic 360 videos. Olson noted that animated VR scenes may eventually join the wellness VR program. They're offered, Visual Inc. offers this as a subscription pricing model, And I thought it was a fascinating article for the application in health and wellness, and thought about neurofeedback as well, and how it might be, VR might be an interesting application to couple with neurofeedback technologies for treating such issues as anxiety disorders and developmental trauma. So we'll see how that plays out in the future, but another fascinating startup story from Minnesota. On to another cool story. This is a Google text-to-speech AI story by Quartz's David Gershgorn. So Google has published a research paper, not peer-reviewed, that explains text-to-speech system called Tachytron 2. And they claim near human accuracy at imitating audio of a person speaking from text. So the system is Google's second official generation of the technology. It consists of two deep neural networks, the first of which translates text into a spectrogram. So a spectrogram is a visual way of representing audio frequencies over time. Think about, if you've ever edited an audio file, or if you do podcasting, you'll know that the editing software has waveforms for the audio input. Think of a spectrogram as the visualization of that waveform. So it's basically a picture of a waveform. You think about translating those signals into waveforms that are visual in nature. You can take computer vision to read that, interpret that, and apply machine learning to it to discover trends and discover how different sounds look, basically. So the spectrogram is then fed into WaveNet, which is a system from Apple AI's research lab DeepMind that reads the chart and generates the corresponding audio elements accordingly. Tachytron 2 can handle hard-to-pronounce words and names, as well as alter the way it enunciates based on punctuation. So capitalized words are stressed, for example. I imagine italicized words are stressed. WaveNet it was first announced in 2016. It's now used to generate the voice in Google Assistant. So once this is ready for production, Tachytron 2 could be an even more powerful addition to Google Home and Google Assistant. But it points to the future of ever more sophisticated voice recognition and reproduction technology. Voice is the future of communications. We marketers need to understand the technology now to be able to prepare for it. I mean, it's being implemented now. Get yourself some voice-activated smart speakers. Use your Google Assistant and Siri and so forth, and figure out how they work, because it's the ease of input, and people are just more and more adopting that, and the technology is getting better and better. So we need to start figuring that out if we haven't already. Security is a big and growing topic among the public. I always used to say that people talk a good game about security, but in the end, they don't really care about their privacy. I think that's changing now with all the massive breaches that we're seeing with the political environment. A bunch of different things, I think, are coming into effect that are causing people to take security seriously. And so are the technology companies then. Firefox, according to a Gizmodo article by Sam Rutherford, is planning to start shaming websites into using security. The latest Firefox beta has a hidden option that indicates that Mozilla may start publicly shaming websites that are still using the insecure hypertext transfer protocol instead of the secure version, the HTTP versus the HTTPS, the S standing for secure. SSL certificates, secure socket layer certificates, aren't that expensive. They cost about $50 per or less per license, which the article argues there aren't a lot of reasons why big organizations don't and others don't use it. But if you're a single operator or an independent or just a person like me who has 17 sites like I do, they can add up. That's $50 times 17 is not a small chunk of change for an individual, right? Anyway, to help spur greater adoption of HTTPS, Mozilla has included this hidden option in the latest edition of Firefox Nightly. that labels all sites still using HTTP as not secure. So that's a clear notice that visiting insecure sites puts your data at risk to any visitors that get that notice, right? Chrome began implementing a similar policy last April, and Google has been giving sites that use HTTPS a boost in search visibility. So that is clearly where the industry is going. We all need to adopt it regardless of the costs, however small people may think they are. Wonderful article by Mirror's Molly Holt about Cadbury. So Cadbury is going all Willy Wonka on us. Well, not us, on some people. The British chocolatier will soon be selling a limited edition white chocolate cream egg, and the new flavor is apparently being sold in convenience stores in the United Kingdom. From January 1 to April 1, the rare white chocolate eggs will be disguised as classic Cadbury cream eggs, but you can just look at the ingredients list for white chocolate. Excuse me, I had to cough there. You can just look at the ingredient list for white chocolate to see whether you got one of those white chocolate eggs. The lucky few who find this highly prized egg will have a chance at winning cash prizes. One egg is worth £2,000. 34 eggs are worth £1,000 each. And you also have a chance of winning £100. So you just call the number on the foil or send your packaging into Cadbury, and they'll tell you if your white chocolate treat comes with some free cash money. It's great ploy, great marketing tool, great publicity tool. Cadbury is a fun brand to watch for their advertising. They're a British company, so British ads are especially good. So I'm going to include 4 of Cadbury's ads on the show notes for you to watch at beyondsocialmediashow.com/214. One of my favorite is the Cadbury Gorilla. If you haven't seen it, it's classic. You'll love it. So go there and watch it, and we'll go on to the next story, which is Apple podcasting analytics finally are with us. This is from a Recode article by Peter Kafka. So Apple is now providing podcasters with the analytics data they had long promised. They're providing only data that comes from people using its newest software, so iOS 11 and iTunes 12.7. So it's not going to be the entire universe of people that are listening to podcasts via Apple, just those that are using that OS system and iTunes, the latest iOS and the latest iTunes software. So the data won't be complete, but as more people adopt the latest software, then it will become more complete. But to collect the data, the duration of the play needs to be at least 5 seconds long. The episodes must be played on more than 5 unique devices for the data to register in your analytics. The overall stats that they're tracking include total time listened in hours across all podcasts, average time listened in minutes. For us, it's 35, which is pretty good. Number of unique devices, percent of listeners who subscribed versus those who didn't subscribe, and top countries by device. For individual episode stats, you can sort by title and release date, but they have duration, the number of devices, total time listened, time per device, and average consumption. It's not a lot of data, but it's better than what we have now and better than a stick in the eye. So hopefully that will improve and spur others, Google, to get in on the podcast measurement analytics game because we need more of it, a lot more of it, actually. A welcome addition to Twitter analytics. This is from an Ad Age article by Garrett Sloan. Video clips that are shared on the devices uploaded natively will now have a running tally of people who watched, even if it's only for a couple of seconds. So it's a minor change, but it does make the service more attractive for users. View counts are a subtle way to encourage people to share more video to the service, upload more video if they think their content is going to be seen. They also provide the views provide social proof to users that a particular video is popular. And the effect of that social proof is encouraging engagement, such as likes and retweets. So the more that number is attached to video, the more likely people are going to, if they deem it popular, to like it and share it themselves, and create a self-fulfilling loop of engagement. So that's good. Twitter is holding to Media Ratings Council standards for views, which say that 1 view equals 2 seconds of playtime with at least 50% of the video on screen. That's paltry. I just don't know why that should even seem legitimate. That's a tiny amount of attention anyway. The counts will not show on live streams or special shows for media partners like BuzzFeed or Bloomberg. All right, came across another really good article by Social Media Examiner by Jonathan Dane on Facebook rules. This is a how-to article, basically, of how to use Facebook advertising rules to optimize your campaign. So Facebook advertising has this feature called rules. It's within the Facebook Ad Manager that allows you to automate aspects of your campaign and set conditions that trigger a desired action. So some use cases is managing campaign spend. So you could pause a campaign if it goes above a set cost per action to prevent ad fatigue. It's a real issue on Facebook advertising, especially. You can pause campaigns after they hit a certain frequency threshold, or allocating budget based on performance. So you can increase budget for what's working, decrease budget for what's not working. I'll include a link to this in the show notes. It's a how-to article. So if you want to take advantage of that, go to the site, beyondsocialmediashow.com/214 to get that link. And then this is a too long must-read article that I'm just going to cite. You can find this at the site as well. We'll link to it, but it's a great article or actually series of articles by Christopher Penn on topic modeling. It's a 6-part series on topic modeling, which is the practice of using machine learning to extract topic insights from a vast trove of text, considering that the amount of content is expanding exponentially. It's just impossible for humans to take all of it in. We're going to have to start using machine learning to get insights and understand what a given topic is about. So this talks about that. How do you make sense of that vast amount of information and extract insights from something that you couldn't possibly consume on your own, nor could any human. So take a look at that article. On to the worst stories of the week, and by far the worst story of the week was the massive computer processor security flaw. Excuse me. Everybody is writing about Gizmodo has its take. This is by Tom McKay. So modern computer processors, if you have not, if you've been living on the rock, broke. They've got a major design flaw that could allow malicious programs to read protected areas of a device's kernel memory. That's the memory dedicated to the most essential core components of an operating system and their interactions with the system hardware. This affects all processors from Intel to AMD to ARM. So all 3 major microprocessors has this security flaw. It could potentially expose protected information like passwords. The error, because it's baked into the hardware, it requires an operating system level overwrite to patch, and every major system is affected, including Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. Potentially something as simple as a JavaScript running on a web page or a cloud-hosted malware could gain access to your sensitive inner workings of your device. And because it affects all major operating systems, it affects all devices. So make sure your OS software is up to date. And hopefully all the patches will come out very soon, and we'll have taken care of it. But that's a major security problem. Relatedly, Intel CEO was aware of this chip flaw when he sold, coincidentally enough, $24 million in stock. That's from Troy Wolverton, a business insider, who reports that the CEO of Intel sold off a large portion of his stake in the company months after Google had informed the chip maker that of these security vulnerabilities in their PC processors, but before the problem was known to the public. So Intel CEO saw a $24 million windfall on November 29 through a combination of selling shares he owned outright and exercising stock options. The sale raised eyebrows when it was disclosed because Krasnich, I think is how you pronounce the guy's name, it left him with just 250,000 shares of Intel stock, which is the minimum the company requires him to hold under his employment agreement. News of the security flaw obviously helped send Intel stock downward. So there's an article from CNN. Selena Larson writes about how to protect your vulnerable devices with instructions on what steps you can take on Apple, Google, Microsoft, and Firefox. Include a link to that in the show notes at beyondsocialmediashows.com/214. This next story is truly awful. I had never heard of this before until I read this article. But this is from a Verge article by Nick Stat. And a feud between two Call of Duty players led to the death of a 28-year-old Kansas man who was shot and killed by police after a fraudulent 911 call was sent to a SWAT team that sent a SWAT team to the man's home. This was first reported by the local newspaper, the Wichita Eagle, which cites numerous now deleted tweets in which Call of Duty players take responsibility for participating or observing the intended prank, which came after an argument about an online wagered match that was worth just $1.50. So one player allegedly provided a fake address to someone with a history of calling in fake threats, and then that person, who was later arrested by the Los Angeles Police Department, proceeded to embroil an innocent stranger in the feud. And this is a practice, I guess, that is known as swatting. It involves a disgruntled internet user calling in a fake threat of violence, typically a murder or hostage situation invented by the caller, and doing so anonymously through the use of software to mask their identity and location. And it results in an excessive display of force from police who have no other information to go on and respond to calls with extreme aggression. Oh my God, how can people do this? Lastly, in the worst, I am so sorry. Ajit Pai cancels his CES appearance. The Verge's Jacob Castronakes reports that Pai was scheduled to appear along with the FTC's acting chairwoman, Maureen Olhausen, as part of a candid conversation, quote unquote, moderated by Consumer Technology Association President Gary Shapiro. So Shapiro supported Pai's move to reverse net neutrality rules. And it's not like he would have been in for a tough interview there, but clearly the people at CES would probably not heckle him and not provide an unhostile audience, let's put it. But nevertheless, he did this. He didn't want to appear before critics. Coward. Lastly, in worst, too long must-read article for the worst stories. This is from a Wired article by Andy Greenberg that talks about how it takes just $1,000 to track someone's location, an individual's location, with mobile ads. It's a fascinating read, kind of scary read, that somebody with as little as $1,000 can figure out how to track individuals. You want to read it. So there's that. Let's go on to shiny new stuff. A toy I have been playing around with. I think I've mentioned in past episodes, but finally had some time to play around with. It's Google Optimize. It is a relatively new addition to Google's Analytics suite. It allows you to do on-site testing of your websites. You can do A/B tests, you can do multivariate tests, and you can do redirect tests. You basically start with an original page, and this is ideally used for, you can use it for anything, but what Google wants you to use it is for Google AdWords campaigns. I'm using it for a Facebook campaign right now. But you start with your original page, and then through this tool, you create variations of elements of that page. So on an A/B test, I'm doing a testing on the label for a submit button. The original has one thing saying on it, the variation has another thing saying on it, and testing how many people convert on those two different elements. The objective is my conversion, so you choose your objective, and that shows the visitors of the original, shows some visitors the original and some visitors the variation, and then measures the results. Basically, it's just split 50-50 the number of visitors to see one variation versus the original, and then measure who clicked on what and how many people converted from the original versus the variation. Very cool, very easy to use once you figure it out. It integrates with Google Tag Manager. Google Tag Manager has a tag already set up for Optimize, and the results are displayed within Optimize, but also you can get them. They show up in Google Analytics as well. So tight integration with Analytics as part of their suite. Then 100 most engaging stories of 2017 by Chartbeat. Excuse me. Chartbeat is a content analytics company. They work with thousands of customers, so they have their system installed on thousands of websites, and primarily news websites, so they can chart basically major news publishers' engagement on stories. They have a list of the 100 most engaging stories, and it's based on basically the amount of time people spent reading a story. It's not just time on page, it's interactions, very granular interactions with the page that they use to compile this data. So we'll include a link in the show notes at beyondsocialmediashow.com/214 for you to look at those. And projects. So I was quoting an article on Link Decks by Lisa Lacey about 6 new ways to think about optimizing for voice search. I mentioned previously in the podcast that voice is the future. So this is something you might want to take a look at. My recommendation among the 6 is to start recording your own audio answers to questions your audience has, and optimize those answers to rank as instant answers in Google search results, because Google uses those instant answers to read responses to Google Home voice queries. So if that's the case, then perhaps if Google finds a audio file, it will play the audio file instead of reading text. There's that, and I've got a blog post on our agency's blog at creativepr.com about the pros and cons of LinkedIn advertising. This is the 3rd part of a series that I'm doing on the pros and cons of advertising. The first 2 were on pros and cons of Facebook advertising and Twitter advertising. So we'll link to that in the show notes. And finally, let's wrap this up this week before I cough again with the daily numbers. So this is data generated per minute by platform for 2017. It's from an infographic by Domo. Some interesting stats here. Among them, Netflix users stream 69,444 hours of video every minute. YouTube users watch 4.1 million videos every minute. 103 million spam emails are sent every minute. And Amazon makes $250,751.90 in sales every minute. So there we go. That's the end of episode number 214 of the Beyond Social Media Show. Of links to everything that I discussed at beyondsocialmediashow.com/214. Let me know what you think. Send me an email, david@bsmediashow.com. Tell me what you think of the show. Tell me what we should cover, what we shouldn't cover, what you like, what you don't like. Love to hear from you. I will respond. And if you like the show, tell somebody else about it. Help us expand our audience. You can find BL OCHMAN, my recovering co-host, on Twitter at twitter.com/what's-next. Her blog is What's Next Blog. I'm on Twitter at Erickson. My blog is e-strategyblog.com. I also write for our agency's blog at creativepr.com/blog. You can find the show at beyondsocialmediashow.com. We're on YouTube at Beyond Social Media. Twitter account is BS Media Show. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio. So subscribe on your favorite place to the show. Tell people about it. Until next week, thanks for watching.